everyone, my name is Victoria Moreno. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and being here. I'm really excited to share my action research project that is titled The Impact of Data-Driven Feedback on Test-Taking Strategies in a 9th Grade ELA Classroom. This project is a culmination of months of research based from classroom data collection and reflective practice. So all of my data was centered around improving the way that students approach and succeed in assessments, and based off of the discussions that we've had as a department, I really incorporated that into this research project because this has to do with data-driven feedback on test-taking strategies that we really try and focus and hone in on with our students, because the data is there. We all know that test-taking strategies is very important for our students, and using data to lead or drive your feedback is always going to obviously show results. And that's what I discussed in my project. So I'm going to talk about that now. So like I said, I chose this project because I decided to focus on this because as an ELA tutor and teacher, and I tutor, as you guys know, in taking FAST and SAT here and there, and with both tests, it is very strategic and reliant on test-taking strategies. If students don't have those test-taking strategies, and even if they have knowledge and they lack the strategies, they are going to struggle significantly with these tests. And I noticed as a teacher and tutor consistently that many of my students, and our students of course, were not underperforming because of the lack of the content knowledge, but only because of their poor test-taking strategies, like misreading questions, time mismanagement, or giving up too early. Like we see them all the time. They are taking a test and after 20-30 minutes, they completely just mentally log out and give up. We see them falling asleep, going and skipping through questions, and just being bored or confused, and they're just given up in their minds. And I also speak to my students a lot, and I ask them what happened off of this test. What happened? If it's FAST state test or a regular test, they say they knew what the questions were on, but they felt insecure, or they ran out of time, or they didn't understand that word or that question. And I realized that while I was teaching them content, I wasn't teaching them how to take tests. Sometimes this is rarely explicitly taught, unfortunately, and that's what inspired this research today, or that I gathered throughout the past few months. So this research was conducted in my 9th grade ELA classroom at the charter school that we teach in a urban district. I worked with 60 students, all with different varying test-taking abilities. I used pre-test, post-test, quasi-experimental design. Students took an initial standardized ELA test, a test that all my students take regardless if they were a part of this or not. Then participated in weekly data chats, and they received personalized feedback from me. They also had folders where they completed reflection logs and were given mini quizzes tailored to their learning gaps, like we have done throughout the school year as well. And this is where our team decided to do bi-weekly standardized test practices where students are given little pre-tests, and I took examples from that. And then, like I said, they were given mini quizzes tailored to their learning gaps after I started doing this research. And at the end of the cycle, they took the same format test again, and then we compared those results to one another. One of my major findings showed a clear improvement in student performance after the intervention. So the average pretest score was 68.3 and rose to 76.5 after intervention. And I also observed a noticeable reduction in test-related anxiety and more confidence in student reflections. So I also interpreted this after my data and research. I started implementing this a lot in tutoring, and I saw great, huge results, not only in their scores, but in confidence. If they feel more confident, they are going to try more, feel better, feel more comfortable, and ultimately, over time, if not right away, start to do better on their assignments. This also creates them to feel more confident, and they may engage more. They may feel more confident, eager to answer questions in class, or even to do their work, or to participate and talk to other students, do their homework, things like that, because before they just were super negative, had a bad mindset, gave up so easily when it came to anything related to the topic they did not feel confident in. Common student errors were mostly related to time management, misinterpretation of questions, and incomplete responses. Students who participated in data-driven feedback sessions began making fewer recurring errors and used more intentional strategies during testing. So, how does this benefit us professionally? How can we relate this into our classroom? Professionally, this project gave me concrete tools that I can apply in my classroom every day moving forward. Like I said, I felt like I was not teaching students how to take a test. I was teaching them the content, which was a mistake that I have been making. And you expect that since you have high schoolers, they know what's going on, they know how to take a test. But unfortunately, that's something that they have been lacking since they started taking tests. Everyone, unfortunately, in grade level schools just gives students tests, doesn't really teach them and really hone in on the skills that they need in order to take a test. That causes, in the future, gaps, lower confidence, insecurity, and bad test-taking skills. So I am now integrating this over the summer, and will be doing that throughout the school year, integrating mini data chats, targeting feedback weekly, even outside of the study. It helped me become a more reflective teacher and deepened my students' ownership of their own learning. If they have their test scores in a folder and they have one-on-one discussions, and I tell them, this is where you're lacking, this is what we need to do, this is how you can improve, here are skills on how you can do that, they take ownership, and especially if they start to grow, even if it's a little bit, they feel so much more confident. They feel happier. They're like, oh my gosh, I get it now, or wow, I'm improving. And it builds that confidence that I was talking about and have mentioned many times. This benefits teaching and learning in general, and not only in English. This research has broader implications for both classroom instruction and educational policy. It reinforces the value of formal assessments, not just as a tool for grading, but for learning as well. It supports the idea that regular feedback and reflection cycles can close those learning gaps that we're talking about without relying solely on high-stake testing, like those standardized tests, benchmarks, state tests, SATs, so on and so forth. Policy-wise, this highlights the need for professional development that helps teachers use student data, not just for reporting, but for responsive instruction. Unfortunately, we have not seen as much talks about those data chats. They tell us, oh, we shouldn't be having data chats, but how? What do we do? How do I help my students? Do I do small groups? Do I give them the content that they need? How do I do this? These are questions that I had to ask and learn through myself, and I may have a little bit of difficulty doing it throughout the semester, but I feel very confident that I will be good and learn as I go through this the upcoming year. But unfortunately, For me, the need for professional development is something that we should really look into because it is beneficial for us as teachers to grow, but also for our students for responsive instruction and how we can navigate that and integrate that into our classrooms when a lot of us are not doing that. So the differences between this project that I am now submitting and the project that I had done a few months prior, the project that I am presenting today has significantly evolved from the original version that I created a few months back. Initially, my intervention was less structured. I hadn't included those reflection logs that I had talked about. I did not put my information and data into visual charts. I also expanded my data collection tools to include those corrections and ensure reliability. And lastly, I clarified the theoretical framework, deepening the connection between formative assessments and metacognition that is based on Black and William. And lastly, this benefits teaching and learning, like we said, and it is something that I'm very passionate about. This research has shown me the power of not just teaching content, but also those teaching strategies that are very, very, very important for our students to succeed from. And when students understand how to take tests, they feel seen, they feel heard, they're supported, they perform better. And I'm really proud of the progress I've seen with my students. I'm excited to carry this work forward. I've already seen growth within the students that I have tutored during the summer and started implementing this in. And I also did this before the school year ended when students were looking at their final FAST scores, their yearly end of the year reading test. I sat every single student down. It took me a few class periods, and I sat every single student down. I went over their data with them, printed out their information and their data and charts so they could see. We reviewed everything. We went over questions. They asked me questions, and even if they didn't do well, they felt more seen and appreciated and understood, and I talked to them and I helped them understand, and I feel like they will carry that to the next school year. They know where and how they can improve. They may feel a little bit more seen and heard, and all in all, we always want our students to succeed while we are also becoming a better educator. And I feel like that this is one of the more simpler tools that we can integrate into our lives and teaching throughout the next semester. So I'm here. If anybody has any questions, you guys just let me know. I'm always an email away, and I will be there to help you guys out if you guys have any questions. And I can't wait to see this and to carry this work forward throughout the next year with not only my students but yours as well. Thank you so much and have an amazing